We have studied appositives for a little while. Now we're moving on to our second skill, participial phrases. I want to remind you that we're doing this because these are the building blocks through which we can build better sentences. When we know little tricks like how an appositive works or how a participial works, we can combine sentences, adding variety to our writing and also eliminating unnecessary words and making our writing stronger. Now, a participial phrase also describes nouns or pronouns just like an appositive. However, it has a verbish quality. Present participles always end in ing, and past participles usually end in ed. Let's take a look at some examples. Here's a sample sentence that does not have a participial phrase. We could see the lake and the mountains across the lake on the French side. Now, in bold, you'll see the participial phrase. Sitting up in bed eating breakfast, we could see the lake and the mountains across the lake on the French side. Note that the phrase sitting up in bed eating breakfast describes the we. What are we doing? We're sitting up in bed and eating breakfast. Here's another example. Sadeo had his reward. That is no participial phrase. Let's add one. Sadeo, searching for a spot of black in the twilight sea that night, had his reward. Now notice the word searching describes Sadeo. Therefore, it's a participle. Here's another one without. The sun rose clear and bright. Now, that's just a normal sentence, but let's see what we can do if we can add to it. The sun rose clear and bright, tinging the foamy crests of the waves with a reddish purple. Notice how Dumas combined different ideas there, added variety through the use of a participle. Spencer took half an hour. Now you should be asking yourself, to do what? Or why? Let's see if we could answer that question without adding a complete sentence, but instead building onto this sentence. Spencer took half an hour swimming in one of the pools which was filled with seasonal rain, waiting for the pursuers to catch up to him. Now, Ray Bradbury then built more in there using participles. There can be present participles. Remember, ing. This is from John Hershey, Hiroshima. She was quite far from the windows which were to her left, and behind her were a couple of tall bookcases containing all the books of the factory library. Now that word containing describes the bookcases. So in this case a participle is once again describing a noun. Let's look at the bottom one. Minute fungi overspread the whole exterior, hanging in a fine tangled webwork from the eaves. Notice that Edgar Allan Poe used hanging to describe the fungi. Past participles. This one is also from Ray Bradbury. In 6 months, a dozen small towns had been laid down upon the naked planet, filled with sizzling neon tubes and yellow electric bulbs. What does that filled describe? A noun. This makes it a participle. The tent, illumined by candle, glowed warmly in the midst of the plain. Notice again that phrase, illumined by candle, set off, of course, by commas, describes a noun, the tent. Why don't you take a look at these and just tell me if they're past or present. Her hair, braided and wrapped around her head, made an ash blonde crown. In this sentence, John Steinbeck is using a past participle. How about this one? Professor Kazan, wearing a spotlessly white tropical shirt and wide-brimmed hat, was the first ashore. I want to remind you that these participles are set apart by commas. What did Arthur C. Clarke use there? A present participle. He walked to the corner of the lot, then back again, studying the simple terrain as if deciding how best to effect an entry, frowning and scratching his head. This describes the he in Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird, and it's a present participle because it has ing. Enchanted and enthralled, I stopped her constantly for details. Richard right there is using a past participle. It has ed. It describes the I, the narrator. Now note that just like appositives, you can use participles as sentence openers. Ray Bradbury uses one here. Whistling, he let the escalator waft him into the still night air. And there's another sentence opener participle here. Amazed at the simplicity of it all, I understood everything as never before. Note that this amazed describes the pronoun I. And you can also have participles in the middle, in the subject-verb split, just like you could for appositives. My father, comma, cautioning me not to work the horse until he had been fully fed, comma, said I had plenty of time to eat myself. Lincoln Steffens uses a present participle to describe a father. Now Ray Bradbury here uses a past participle in a subject-verb split. Eccles, balanced on the narrow path, aimed his rifle playfully. Note once again the use of commas. Now, participles can also be sentence closers. She called to him, comma, excited. Daphne du Maurier in The Birds uses a single word there to describe she in this participle. T.S. White uses a sentence closer here as well. The magician petted the hand, comma, holding it quietly with a thumb in its blue veins, waiting for life to revive. Now, I want you to take a second, pause this video, and using this Top Hat graphic organizer, tell me what are the similarities between positives and participles. Then, using the bottom line, explain to me the differences between the positives and participles. This is going to be where you're going to show what you comprehended and understood from this video. So make sure that you write well enough that I can read and understand your thoughts. Now, here are 3 different phrases. Pause this video, look at the phrases, and unscramble them into a sentence using a participle. Bernard, comma, wearing a black turtleneck sweater, dirty flannels, and slippers, was waiting on the landing outside. Note that this is a subject-verb split participle. Let's do one again. Here are 5 different phrases. Figure out how to put them together using a participle. There are different ways that you could do this, but here's how Joseph Conrad did it. A little house, perched on high piles, appeared black in the distance. Again, a subject-verb split. I am hoping this helped you understand participles and that you can start employing them in your own writing. We'll work on them a little bit more, but consider this one of the building blocks, one of the tools you can use in your sentence variety quest and your search to eliminate words.